A basketball hero around here is treated like a god. I mean, how can you ever find out what he could really do? I don't want this to be the high point of his life. I've seen them, the real sad ones. They sit around the rest of their lives talking about the glory days when they were 17 years old.
You know, most people would kill to be treated like a god just for a few moments.
Thing you're doing. I mean, that family has a memory that's really going to be a family heirloom.
Of course. And that's that's why I do this, is because, you know, and there's a lot of people that are still at this day still learning about. I mean, I'm still learning about Indiana high school basketball. You know, all this stuff that I learned in the first two interviews with you, I had no clue about. So, you know, I thought I knew Indiana basketball, but once I had a passion for it. But once I started this, it's just been nothing but me learning about the game, and also passing it along to others who want to learn about the game.
He was a big guy, wasn't he? Tall guy.
And if I am not mistaken, I don't think I am, he had 9 NBA championship rings, because, you know, he was either assistant coach or scout or stuff like that. So, you know, he was one shy of having a ring on every finger and 2 thumbs.
Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yes.
But no, this is why I do this, and I love chatting about it and talking about it. So,
well, I'm honored. I really am. I'm not just saying that.
Yeah. Okay. So give me 1 second to do the intro, and we'll go from there.
Okay. Fine, Bill.
Welcome to Keeping the Nostalgia Alive, the Indiana Basketball Memory Show. I am your host, Billy Powell. You can go to Keeping the Nostalgia Alive. That's all one word, keepingthenostalgiaalive.podbean.com. And you can listen to over 100, and I think we have 175 episodes now of interviews with those who played the game of basketball, who are from Indiana, coached the game, officiated the game, or, you know, have great memories from the game. You know, you're looking at Kent Benson, Rick Mount, Gene Cady, and the list goes on and on. And I was just chatting with the guests that we're going to have on today, and I do this stuff so that, you know, I record the past so the future can remember. And I love keeping the nostalgia alive so that people who want to learn about the game can learn about the game. Family, friends, relatives of these people that we interview, you know, once they're not around, or you know, that they're not forgotten. So I love doing this. So please head on over to Keeping the Nostalgia Alive. Like I said, it's all one word, keepingthenostalgiaalive.podbean.com. So with that being said, you can also go to HoosierHysteria.net. The link is there also. You can see some fabulous photos and stories of this great game from the state of Indiana. With that all being said, we've already done 2 interviews with this gentleman, and they were very well received. It's probably my 3rd or 4th most downloaded shows with this guest that we're going to have today. He just recently did an article for, I think, this upcoming winter edition of the Indiana Basketball Hall of Fame magazine, and it's titled Springs Valley 1958 Blackhawks, the story of the team's rendezvous with destiny. And, of course, I'm talking with the coach of that team, Dr. Rex Wells. Coach Wells, I'll call you Coach Wells. Coach Wells, thank you for taking some time again to help us keep the nostalgia alive and talking about this great game of basketball from Indiana.
Thanks a lot, Bill. I'm honored to be on your show.
You know, the interesting thing is with this article you I loved the one thing that I pulled out of it is that you love to hold on to the nostalgia yourself.
I do. I'm very fortunate. I'm going to be 88 years old, Bill, and I guess I'm blessed because I can still recall a lot of the events, people, etc. That goes back some 63 years now.
And you know, with that being back so far, tell us about the reunions that you have with your team from 1957-58, and how much you enjoy going to those, and what happens at those reunions.
Well, I guess I think in the article that you have, I said something to the fact that I think on the first night of practice, when the new school was consolidated, I honestly do believe on the first week of practice, getting the teams ready to go and all, there was a strong bond that was established, and I don't know that, I'm sure we didn't, design it or anything like that, but there was a real strong bond of the team, the coaches, and you know what? That thing carried over and over and over, and we just kept getting together about every 10 years, I think it was, and we just wanted to get back together and share the memories and think about what we had done and how, and we rarely anybody missed those reunions, and they were all in French Lick, and we usually would be staying at one of the resort hotels there in French Lick, and we'd have a banquet, and we'd have people to come and speak and talk. It really was an exciting time. Still is.
What are those, I've been through French Lick, but, and I have looked at photos of some of the resorts that are down there.
Oh, yeah.
And they look fantastic, and I'm surprised that, my grandfather, who passed about 3 years ago, he was a big time. We went to Turkey Run State Park, McCormick's Creek. We went to Shade.
Yep.
We went to every park there was because he loved going to parks, and we would have picnics and walk the trails and stuff like that. And I'm surprised that I haven't made it down to that area to go to one of those resorts. And you always have that, I have that perception of what they look like, but my perception of what they look like and what I've seen online and people posting photos and videos, it's they're pretty outstanding places to go and stay.
Bill, there's two, get this, there's two, I call them, and I think I'm correct, 4 or 5-star hotels in 2 little towns in southern Indiana. One town maybe 800 people, French Lake maybe 2,000. And these 2 hotels are filled up every weekend with people. You can't get reservations on the weekends, especially in the summer and all. It's just an unbelievable situation in these 2 small towns with 4-star hotels. It really is.
And I told my wife we're going to have to make a journey and go down and stay for a weekend and just enjoy what's down there because, back in the 80s, I just thought that it was, wasn't all that. And, and you could, what I'm getting ready to say is that, as you get older, you want to appreciate things a little bit more. And you wish you wish you had that when you were younger. But as you get older, so I need to make it down there and take her down there because those resorts look absolutely fabulous.
Well, you need to go, and there's the one hotel is called the West Baden Dome. And the dome at one time years ago was designated as the largest dome, unsupported dome, I should say, and that's what they call it, because there's no support under this huge dome at the West Baden Hotel. And if you decide to go, you got to get a reservation well ahead of time because it fills up every weekend. It's an amazing structure that you just can't believe that's in this small community. It really is. And of course, French Lick has a hotel. I mean, I don't know. I think it's 600 rooms now because they've added on to it. And of course, the casino is there at the resort now, and lots of people flock in there from all over, out of state, Illinois, Kentucky, Ohio, etc. A lot of people come to French Lick, Indiana.
Coach, in pulling stuff from your article, I don't want to ruin it for a lot of people since it's coming out, and we'll chat more about it as the interview progresses. But and I'm probably going to bounce around a little bit today, and I don't think you'll mind. But tell me about signing and possibly playing for the Washington Senators, and what was it like to kind of give that up and go into the service before you started coaching?
Well, okay, I grew up in a town that loved baseball. Going way, way back, I think I mentioned in the article, you know, the Cubs, they had their spring training there. The Cincinnati Reds came there for spring training during the war, during World War II, because there was a shortage of things, gasoline, travel, etc. So they did come to French Lick, Indiana, and they had spring training. Of course, I was probably in junior high school at the time, and but anyway, when I went on to college, when I graduated from high school, went on to Hanover College, and I played baseball at Hanover College for 4 years. And during my senior year, I guess I had a pretty good year, and I was contacted by a minor league scout for the old Washington Senator baseball team, and that was 1954. Well, prior, I had played at Jasper every summer for three summers in a semi-pro league called, the name of the baseball team was the Jasper Reds. And it was a great league, a lot of good baseball played, etc. So I played there, and in 1954, I did sign a minor league contract with Washington, and I was scheduled to leave in February for spring training in Florida. I think it was Winter Garden, Florida is where it was. Well, Uncle Sam came calling that summer, fall, and I was drafted. So there went my baseball dream, I guess you'd say. I don't know that I could have made it. I might have, might not. But anyway, I'm drafted, and then I'm in the Army now. So that's kind of how it happened. Now, I did play baseball in the Army, which was great, but my career in the baseball world was pretty well shattered once I got that draft notice to leave.
How did you stay positive, or what was your focus on not being able to play baseball and going into the Army? Did you look forward to that? Did you know what you were getting into? Did you know at that time you were going to be over in Germany?
No. Oh, no. Bill, you know, when you're drafted, I was 22. I was 22 years old, and I was drafted. And the first day of Army life, they had us sit down, and we filled out an application, et cetera, et cetera. And I don't know how it just happened, but there was a little thing on the application, on the information thing. It says list some of your awards that you had in high school. Well, unbeknownst to me at the time, I thought, well, I'll throw this in, and I said, in the information sheet, signed a minor league contract with Washington Senators. That's all it was. That's probably one of the greatest sentences I ever wrote on an application, because it got me a tryout in the Army to play Army baseball. And it also got me on TDY, temporary duty, in the summers, and I played 2 summers of United States Army 10th Division baseball, and I wasn't out marching 35 miles a day with a 40-pound pack on my back. Now get that.
And what was Army baseball like? Who would you guys play? Was there anybody you played with that went on to have a major league career?
By the way, there was some outstanding baseball players, and then when I got to Germany, of course, there was bases around Germany, all over Germany, that and this was in 1940 or 1955 and 56. That was when I was in. But we would play teams around Germany, and it was very competitive, and there was some outstanding baseball players. I'm talking about guys that had signed minor league contracts, and I don't remember some of the names, but I did play against future, I should say, Major League Baseball players. And and it was great. It was really competitive, really competitive.
What position did you play in baseball, or what?
I played. In college. I played shortstop and second base, and then most of my Army career baseball was second baseman. Yeah.
And did you feel? I mean, I'm assuming, and this is stereotyping people in the state of Indiana. I'm assuming that you were a Cardinals fan.
You know what? I was really a Giant fan.
Okay.
I was a Giant fan. I love Willie Mays.
Now, while you were in the Army and you were over in Germany, are these some of the areas and some of the places that Elvis Presley would have been a couple years later when he went into the Army?
Yes. I think Elvis Presley maybe was in the Army about the same time I was. Yeah.
Now, give me a little bit of rundown on this. So, is it a 2-year investment that you make with the Army, and then there's the possibility of re-upping? Is that how that works back then?
Oh yeah, exactly. I was drafted, and it was a 2-year deal. When you're drafted, now you could have joined. It was 3-year. It's 3-year if you joined, or 2-year if you're drafted. And when I was in college, 1950 to 54, my draft board at my county, they gave me a deferment from being drafted during that period of time. And if I could stay in college and everything, well, I was deferred until I graduated. And then right away, my number was ready to go because it was during Korea War at the time. And but that's kind of the way it happened, and I was very fortunate just to be able to play 2 summers of Army baseball. It was pretty exciting, to tell you the truth.
What was your mindset while you were over there and in the Army? Did you think you would actually have to go in and fight in Korea? Were you pondering what you were going to do when you get out? Did the time go by quick?
Well, the time went by, really, in all fairness, the time did go by quick. Now, when they call it TDY, temporary duty in the Army, is when you're not playing soldier, in other words, what I'm trying to say. And turns out that the little outfit that I was in, they call it a platoon. When I would go back to the platoon that I was assigned to prior to the baseball season, I wasn't receptive very well. I mean, these guys are out in the field in Germany, and they were out in the field and living in tents, etc., and marching, playing soldiers, what I'm trying to say.
Right.
Now, I wasn't playing soldier for about three months in baseball, and you can imagine what my buddies were telling me when I'd get back to the game of playing soldier. They gave me a pretty hard time, really.
So, what's the process? Did you think about re-signing up? What gets you back to Indiana?
Well, during my career in the Army, it turned out that my father passed away in December of 1955, and I was given a leave of absence to come back from Germany because he was very, very sick. So it turns out on my trip back from Germany, he passed away. And I got back to West Baden, my hometown. I had a few days off, I don't know, maybe a week or so, before I was to return to my outfit, which I was definitely going to be returning. Turns out that I don't know, I think it was around the day or two before I returned, there was a basketball game at West Baden High School, and of course that was my alma mater, where I graduated. So I decided I'll just slip up to the basketball gym and watch this game. And I did. So I'm standing out on the stage of the old school, and my superintendent came up and said, "Hey, I did hear you were home for a while. I was, when you going back and et cetera? And I said, well, I'm going to be leaving in a couple of days. He said, would you be able to come to my office tomorrow, the next day? And I said, oh, yeah, I'd love to. His name was Condred, Mr. Condred. So I did, and I walked in that office, Bill, and sat down, and right immediately he said, Rex, we're going to make a baseball or a basketball change, and we would like to have you, if you're interested, would you like to come back when you're going to be out of the Army in 1st of October, middle of October, and we'd like to make a change. And we'd like to have you this coach and teacher. So that's how it happened that I became West Baden High School's final basketball coach, because that particular, right after the season at West Baden High, the two towns, French Lick and West Baden, consolidated their high schools. So I was the last basketball coach at West Baden High School. And that's how it happened that I became the basketball coach and teacher at West Baden. It was because the superintendent and I met at the ball game, and he wanted me to consider coming back.
You know, they say that you're not supposed to talk about, I think, sex, politics, and religion. But
yeah.
How difficult was that, or was that wanted? The consolidation, was it inevitable?
No. It was not inevitable. Bill, consolidation had been talked about many, many years before it actually happened. But let's face it, people did not want to lose their basketball team, especially in small towns. They did not. And back in French Lick and West Baden, going back to the 40s and then back to the 30s, that idea of combining the two schools had been talked about for many, many years, but it just did not materialize because these two towns are only a mile apart. You know, people knew each other from both towns, and when the old basketball season rolled around, the two high schools were highly, highly competitive. Now, really going way back, the two hotels with their barons of the two hotels, they became very, very competitive too, the two large hotels. This carried right over to the high schools and right over to the towns. And it just happened that in the summer of 1957, there was a group of people that came together. I think I got it in the article. It was a Citizens for Consolidation, I believe was the name of the group. Young people, young men and women came together thinking maybe that this was a good time to see if we could get the movement of consolidating French Lick and West Baden schools. Lo and behold, Bill, the vote did pass, if you can believe. They put a vote to the communities, and it did pass. And I had a theory, I've always had a theory that most people, I believe, most residents, French Lick and West Baden, in June of 1957, and that's when it happened, most people didn't come out to vote, frankly. But the people that did come out had been reading the articles in the paper, etc. They came out and the vote passed. And the history tells us that it was probably one of the first, maybe the first consolidation in Indiana, by the way.
Now, and you actually had a really good 15-7 record at West Baden.
Yeah, we did. We really did. And by the way, the team that I coached, those kids, 4 or 5 of those kids at West Baden, became Blackhawks the next year. You probably knew that in the article. Yeah, we did have a good team, and we got hot near the end and won 3 sectional ball games and ended up in the final, game of the Huntingburg sectional in 1957, and we ran on to Jasper, who had a great team. They ended up winning the sectional, and they even won the regional that year, so you can imagine what kind of team they had. But anyway, West Baden got to the finals of the sectional in 1957, and it was a pretty big, exciting thing for a 25-year-old coach. By the way, I was only 24 at the time. But that, and of course, West Baden and French Lick dissolved their high school to become Springs Valley High School. And I guess the next question you're probably going to ask me, well, you became the coach. Were you the favorite? No, well, we can talk about that because I really didn't think I was even close to getting the job. I only had 1 year of experience, and I ended up not even I never even applied. I didn't even think about applying for the job because 1 year experience, I thought, I didn't go do it. So I went and enrolled at Indiana University during that summer because I thought, well, I'll go back to school and I'll work on my administrator's certificate. And I had not, Bill, planned, believe me, honest to God, I had not planned on being the Springs Valley High School basketball coach.
So before you continue on that, what was Coach Wells like during that 15 and 7 season? Were you just and because of the consolidation possibly were you kind of getting ready for what you wanted to do because you didn't think you would be the Springs Valley coach? Like you said, you went to, of course, you enrolled in Indiana University, but were you still have coaching on your mind or?
No, I really didn't. I thought, well, I coached that 1 year. It was exciting. Heck, by the way, I did play basketball in the Army, by the way. I was a teammate of a guy by the name of Larry Costello. Larry Costello was an All-American basketball player at Niagara University. He came out of the Army. He and I were good friends in the Army, and he came out of the Army and played for Philadelphia. I believe it was Philadelphia Warriors or 76ers. Or anyway, he played many years with pro ball. He later became coach at the Milwaukee Bucks. He had Oscar on his team. He had Kareem. Larry Costello was a teammate of mine in the Army. So, I had a passion for basketball. Let's put it that way. And I played 4 years at West Baden High School under the great coach that I just loved. Such a great coach. And I learned a lot of my philosophy about basketball playing with Larry and then also with my coach at West Baden. So I loved the game and all, but going back, the French Lick coach had, I think, 4 years at French Lick and had a couple real good years, by the way. Can't remember his name. But anyway, I think you can see where I'm 24 years old and I'm not even thinking about the new school and the school board asking me that I'm to be the coach. So I kind of got in my mind, well, maybe I could take my career some other way. I thought maybe at one time I wanted to be an engineer and all, but I really did love to teach. That was a big thing for me. I really loved the classroom. I loved the interaction with students, etc. But lo and behold, I signed a contract August the 1st, 1957, to be Springs Valley High School's basketball coach. Teach mathematics 5 periods a day, and that's what happened. That's what happened. Of course, you know the history now, the rest of the history.
Did you just feel like things were falling into place? Did you feel any animosity from anybody? Was it kind of a surprise in the area?
Oh, Bill, there was a lot of people, especially on the French Lick side of town, that said, I know, you heard you remember the story or the movie Hoosiers, where the new coach sits down or he gets a little interview with the boys down at the barber shop. You remember that scene? And that happened to me. I never did get to the barber shop, I don't think. But anyway, I know for a fact that there was a lot of people said, this guy, Rexwell, he's too young. He's a young whippersnapper. Why did they ever hire him? He has no experience. He only had one experience at West Baden High School, etc. You just got to know that was a real thing. It was definitely a real issue being so young. I mean, I'm only 24 years old. Yeah.
I know a little bit about the process in Indiana now, but what is the process in hiring a coach? Are you under contract for the actual basketball team? Are you under the contract at the actual teaching at the school? Was there a normal amount that you got paid for coaching? Could you have gotten a larger amount, or because you were so young, they got you at a good price?
Bill, the first thing when you asked that first thing about a young coach like myself, you know what it is? I'm affordable. I think my contract was $3,800. And by the way, back then, when you signed a contract, you signed a 1-year coaching contract. You didn't sign. The fact of the matter is, the contract that I signed in 1957 was just teaching. Assignment to be assigned later. In other words, you're going to be assigned a coaching job, whatever, and there was no separate money. It was just one salary. It seemed to me like it was around $3,900, $3,800 that I signed a contract, and of course I was signed to be the basketball coach, but it's only a 1-year deal the way I signed it, just 1 year.
So, with what we were talking about with, the uproar of this young guy who's only coached 1 year and all this, and we know what you did in 57 and 58, did as the 57 and 58 season continued on, that phenomenal year, did the talk about, or it being kind of a, the talk of people who were a little bit upset about it, did that kind of diminish or die and go away?
It did go away. And by the way, first on that question, really, the French League, I really thought the French League coach probably would get the job, to tell you the truth. But you know what? I honest to God believe that maybe the season I had as the first-year coach at West Baden, the 15-7 season, I guess that had some bearing on the decision to be made. It just happened that French Lick that year did not have a very good season. So, my 15 wins and 7 losses with West Baden, got to the finals of the sectional that year. That had some bearing on the fact they wanted me, I think you'd say,
So you're 24, you're getting ready to have this outstanding season. You're not much older than the players that you're coaching.
Yeah, that is true.
Did it form like a fatherly thing, a brotherly thing, a friendship thing? How did your coaching style work right off the bat with those boys?
Well, I don't think it was a fatherly thing, really. I was pretty, I was in the infantry, by the way, Bill. I was in the infantry, and I was in pretty good shape. I came out. I could play with any of those guys on the team, and so I think they respected me pretty much. And I had this philosophy that we are going to be in the best shape of any team we play, and we are going to be in better shape than they are, and we're going to start tonight right away to be that way. And that's the way it went all year long with the Spring Valley Blackhawks. We were in terrific shape, and that's why we won many of our ball games in the last half of the game, last quarter even. And my philosophy was that we're going to be in great shape. They, I think, respected me. I'm sure they did, because I could play, and I did participate in practice, with them, with the team. I wasn't a big fan of trying to be a father or be a buddy. It was not a buddy deal, I can tell you. It was not a buddy deal. It was, I'm the coach and you're the player, and we're going to be prepared every night to compete.
Going back to that Hoosiers, thing with the barbershop.
Yeah.
Did the players welcome you? Did you think was there a couple of weeks where they had to really get an idea this guy knows what he's doing, or was it just right off the bat you had control?
Well, Bill, you got to realize that I had coached four or five, I guess it would be,
right,
of the Black Hawk team in West Baden High School. I had coached them at West Baden. Not only that, but those same kids I had coached before I went in the Army. I had coached them in their junior high years. The superintendent had asked me before I left for the Army, he said, would you coach these junior high boys before you leave for the Army? And I said, I'd love to. He said, now there's no money available, but, would you do it? And I said, you bet, I did. So I coached those kids in junior high. Come out of the Army, I coached them 1 year in West Baden. They go to Springs Valley, when the schools consolidate. I think you'd say they knew me pretty well, okay?
Yeah.
I'd say so. And then the whole idea was, in town, is Wells going to have this same group of guys, and is that all he's going to have, just the West Baden boys? What about our French Lick kids? Do you get the picture on that?
Yes.
And so, luck as habit, I think it was luck, when we cut the team, assistant coach and I, when we cut the players, we had to, because a lot of kids came out. We did not, I'll repeat that, we did not say, you know what, we've got to have half and half. We've got to have half West Baden, half West French Lick. It did not happen that way. It happened about the abilities of those kids that came out when we had our opening invite for basketball tryouts. And as it happened, I guess destiny was helping us, because we did end up with 5 kids from West Baden and 5 kids from French Lick, if you can believe it. We did. But it was based on ability, Bill, not on equalization between the two towns. It was not.
How hard was that to make those cuts? Was that
it
something
wasn't
that
hard.
worried you? It wasn't hard?
It was not hard, really. Now, you do have to realize that the West Baden and the French Lick kids, really, until they played the night of a basketball team, there was no friendship there. But after that, French Lick and West Baden kids, they were really, they played together over at the college court and all. I think it was in the book about the West Baden College, and it was a Jesuit college, and the Jesuits were training for priests, but they were young guys coming out of places like Marquette University of Xavier in Ohio, places. Anyway, they played on those Sunday afternoon choose-up games with French Lick and West Baden guys, and it was very competitive. But there was no animosity. It could have been. There was no animosity between the West Baden guys and the French Lick players. They immediately bonded together. And, thank God it happened, because it could have been very tough situation. Number one, on the Spring Valley Blackhawk team, prior year, French Lick guard, his name was Schmutzler. and the West Baden guard, his name was Pruitt. These two guys were the leading scorers in the county, in Orange County, and they were averaging anywhere from 18, 22 points a game. Now, can you imagine if you couldn't get those two guys to play as a team and they wanted to be individual? Can you imagine what kind of thing we would have as far as team basketball? It wouldn't have been team basketball, I can tell you that right now. But these two guys, they put aside their prior glory, I guess you say, and they were terrific team players. They were team players. Thank God for that, because if one would have been wanting to be the big star or the other wanted to be the big star, we would not have had the philosophy that we're going to be a team. We're going to be a team now.
And today in the game of basketball, you don't find a lot of that still, that teamwork, or that you don't. And you don't. It's sad.
It is sad.
Yeah.
And I always said, you know what? Team rewards, and I proved that at the last year or the Springs Valley year, team rewards are a lot more rewarding than individual rewards. Because team rewards means that every one of the members on the team are worth something, whereby only two or three hotshot players on a team, they're the only two that's getting any honor or any glory. But if we're playing team basketball, and of course if we're winning, all the members of the team are going to be rewarded, and they're all going to buy in to the team basketball. I see that. I see that all times today. Two or three hot shots on a team, it's all about them.
Exactly.
It's all about them.
Not to continue to reference, we're doing free advertisement for the movie Hoosiers and for the two resorts down in French Lick, but that there's a scene where Gene Hackman, which actually it's very interesting today, is Gene Hackman's 90th birthday.
Yeah, you're right. He is. I knew that.
Yeah, but you know that part where he's like, "Welcome to Indiana basketball," and he walks out onto the court.
Yep.
What was your feeling like during that first game, and especially with the consolidation and everything? Did you have the jitters? Did your team have the jitters during that first game? And of course, we know you won it.
I tell you, Bill, that's a great question, because I want to tell you, we've talked about it. Paul Radcliffe, center on that team, he lives here in Fort Collins. I hired Paul as assistant or the athletic director of the high school. I was principal for many, many years here. But we're here today. We're both retired, and we get together, et cetera. But look, the first game was Shawswick, and Shawswick had a terrific program, rich history of tradition at Shawswick High School. Great coach up there, Coach Fortner, when he was living. But that was our opening game in French Lake. We're going to play Shawswick High School. The old gym at French Lake seated, 1,800 seats or so. No, maybe not that many. Let's go back, maybe 1,500. Well, anyway, it was a big crowd. Everybody was going to come out, West Baden, French Lick people, and they'll see what happened here with the Blackhawk team, blah, 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 Well, Shawswick had it in their mind, they came to embarrass the new school. There's no doubt. They came down to embarrass the new school. Well, game started, and we're all pretty excited, let's face it, brand new school. We jumped out to a lead, unbelievable. Well, I'm sitting there on the bench, and I'm just saying, oh, my God, look at this. We jumped out to a lead. We did not let up. We beat Shawswick, the first opening game, 55-40. If you can believe. Well, that set the stage for the next game when we went to Jasper to play this great Jasper team that had beaten West Baden in the finals of the sectional the year before. And by the way, it was a really close game for a while. We had played 4 games year, and Jasper only played 3. But anyway, we go to Jasper, and we're the underdog because of Jasper being a school that had the tradition, the colorful past of their teams. We go down there, and lo and behold, it was, as I remember, and it's in that article, I think we were playing really close the first 3 quarters, and finally we got the momentum and won the ball game. That's the bottom line. Well, here we're now 2-0, and we've beaten 2 really good, top-notch, powerful basketball teams. Now, question. Ratcliffe and I talked the other day, and we were saying, what if we had lost both of those games and came back and had a couple games that we didn't do very well, and all of a sudden we're two wins and 8 losses that first year. I don't think consolidation would look very good at the time. Do you?
Correct.
I doubt. In fact, the matter is, I think in my little article I said something to the fact that after we were 6-0, consolidation began to look better and better to the residents of French Lick and West Baden. But it wouldn't have been that way if we were 2-9. I don't think it would have been that way, if you know what I mean.
Right. Well, how did the fans? While you were at Springs Valley, how well did you guys travel? Did a lot of fans go to try to get into most of the games?
Hey, you know the story there. There's nothing like a winner. They being the West Baden group and the French Lake group, they got on the bandwagon after about 5 games. By the way, Bill, fans came dressed in their prior school colors. French Lick was red and white. They came, the fans, in their red and white outfit, their sweaters and all. West Baden was purple and white. They came to the game with their purple and white outfits. I'm talking about the alumni of the 2 high schools. And about the 4th or 5th game, the fans began to wear the Blackhawk colors, which was black and white, gold trim. And I remember the team was really excited, and so was I, that finally the fans, the parents and the fans of the players, they begin to, in a sense, tell us, hey, these old rivalries are beginning to lessen now, and we've accepted Springs Valley as the new high school in the valley. So, those things, I remember that so well. The players would say, hey, they're coming with our colors now. Well, it didn't happen that way for about the first 4 games. It did not.
With 2/3 of your life basically in Fort Collins, isn't it amazing? Isn't it amazing the love, the passion, and the memories that you have for that other third of life in the state of Indiana?
Well, what can I say? I'm getting choked up here, Bill. You said it right. You said it exactly right. It's amazing. It is. I guess what the amazing thing is I can still recall a lot of what happened that season, still.
Mm-hmm. And
I said.
And a lot of there's a lot of 6 degrees of separation with a lot of interviews I have. I can go, like for the interview with Rick Mount. He came into the athletic director's office. Gene Ring was the assistant basketball coach under Branch McCracken for a while.
Yeah.
He actually played under John Wooden for a while. So, that was my in with getting Rick to be on the program. And I was
really?
And I was thinking that today was that, it was a different era, but my basketball team my senior year, we went 26-0.
Oh, wow.
And so, we had a perfect regular season at 22-0. And
that at Broad Ripple?
Yes, it was. And
oh wow.
yeah, and I just knew.
Oh wow. What year? What year was that?
So my freshman year at Broad Ripple High School, we made it to the semi-state, and we played Newcastle, and they had Steve Alford, who scored 57 points and went 25 for 25 from the free throw line.
Oh my goodness.
But we were youngsters at that time, and our team just got up to the point when I was a senior. We were 22-0. We won the city. Unfortunately, a lot of the teams that we played, like the Richmond Red Devils, other teams that we played, just weren't at their power peak that they have been in previous years. So, there wasn't a lot of talent that we played, but we did, ended up being a really good Gary Roosevelt team at the end of the year, and we were 22-0. We won the sectional. We made it to the regional final, and we lost to Warren Central, who was led by Jeff George, who went on to become a professional NFL player at quarterback.
Oh yeah.
And so I was just kind of, I know it's a different era, but it was kind of I always think about some things before in my show prep, and I was just kind of thinking about that. But in reading yours and in reading, of course, we have to talk about the Valley Boys, the story of the 1958 Springs Valley Blackhawks by Timothy Wright, who just does an outstanding job. But I tried to find something that was 6 degrees of separation for us, and that was my attempt.
Well, that's a great commentary. I think at the halfway mark of the '58 season, we were 9-0, and I know that in my mind, I thought, we really do have a very good basketball team. We're 9-0. The gyms were filling up, when we'd play away from home, it would be a full crowd. It would be a sellout crowd. But then the second half, we began to get into some real tough ball games. Providence, we played Providence High School in New Albany, and that was a tough game. We played Shawswick once again in their home. We played some really good games the second half. We got down to the last game of the season of all things. I don't know if I've told you about this, but the last game of the season, we were playing Salem at home. We're 17-0, hadn't lost a game. Well, it turns out that the French Lick Hotel Resort, they had planned a huge party. I mean, it was going to be a party for the whole community. And the guy that planned it had an idea to have an ice sculpture, about a 4-foot ice sculpture of 18-0 set on the table for this big party. Now, I don't know if you can get the picture or not, but he had done that before we played the last game, okay? So we played the last game, and it was Salem, Indiana, and they had a very good team. And the gym was sellout, standing room only, and we were just playing pretty average basketball. Salem was winning practically, in other words, for about the first 3 quarters and a half, and we're down 8 or 9 points as we go into the fourth quarter, and I'm thinking, oh my goodness, and I'm sure everybody. Turns out that Springs Valley put on one of their great last quarter surges, and we end up beating Salem by 6 points. I remember so well, 68-62, I think it was. And now we had preserved the 18-0 record, undefeated. Everybody went to the hotel after the game and had a great time. Can you imagine what it would have been if we'd have lost that game by 10 points? Can you just imagine what that would have been like? I bet there wouldn't have been 15 people show up at the French League party. I'm serious. I am serious.
Coach, what's it like for you to have players that have played for you that have gone on to be inducted into the Indiana Basketball Hall of Fame?
Well, that is that's such an honor. I can't begin to tell you what an honor that is, Really. I guess you know that recently Jerry Reynolds, and I think you told me you had an interview with Jerry some time ago. Is that right?
That's right. I couldn't get very many words in, but he's a hilarious storyteller, that's for sure.
Oh, he is. Jerry's very entertaining. Oh, I coached Jerry his last year in high school. Did you know that?
No, I did not. That's why I thought that was a possibility. That's why I wanted to ask you that question.
Well, Jerry was a senior the last year that I coached before they appointed me as principal of the high school, French Lick. Jerry Reynolds was on a basketball team, and we had a pretty good team. I think we won 13, 14 games, but didn't do well in the sectional, and we thought we would. But Jerry was a member of my trigonometry class, of all things, and he was a senior. And I remember so well, I shared this with Jerry the other day when I talked to him to congratulate him about being honored in March coming up. And I said, Jerry, do you remember the time when you'd come up to my desk when we'd have some time to work on your lessons and on your assignment, and you'd say, hey, Coach, can I talk to you? And I said, yeah, Jerry, yeah, what's your assignment? What's going on? No, he said, I've got a thing here I'd like to show you. And it was a basketball play that he would have drawn out, and he had the X's and O's and blah, blah, all. And he'd say, well, let me explain what it is. The ball goes down the corner, and it comes back on the side, and then it comes back here, and there's an X right up here at the head of the circle. I said, yeah, that's really good, Jerry. That play looks like it might really work. Yeah. I said, oh, by the way, right at the head of the basketball circle here, there's an X. Who is that X? And he said, oh, that's me. So Jerry had planned to work this play out to where he'd be shooting the basketball, and it was so much fun because he did that several times. It wasn't just one time. About that time, I guess I figured, looking back, that Jerry was going to make it big somewhere. You know what I mean? And he has.
Coach, what's it, like I said a few minutes ago, 2/3 of your life in Fort Collins. Does a day go by, and I don't want to choke you up because I do this to myself, but does a day go by that you don't think about your years back in Indiana or what you guys could have done differently to maybe continue your streak to 29-0, and how do you, are those happy memories, or are you tell me a little bit about that.
Well, it's a happy memory. It's a terrific memory of once in a lifetime. That's a once in a lifetime experience. Bill, I'm just sitting here now, just really choked up. We walked out on that old Butler University hardwood, that famous hardwood, Butler University, for a practice session the day before we were to play Fort Wayne South, the day before. And we had a 2-hour practice session on the court. And, of course, we had gone down underneath the old stadium to the dressing rooms, was way down below, and you had to climb the steps to get up to the floor. That was all new stuff to me and everybody else on the team. I don't think any of the players had ever been in the Butler Fieldhouse, let alone even playing on the floor. And I had been there one time sitting in the very best last section of the Crow's Nest watching Jasper play Madison and beat them in a historic ball game. As a senior I was. And lo and behold, here it was. Now I'm going to be sitting on that coaching bench as a 25-year-old coach in the Butler Fieldhouse. Now, that's pretty overwhelming if you think about it. Not only that, our team hadn't lost a game. We had never make that emphatic. We had never lost a game ever in the history of the school because we'd just been consolidated only about 8 weeks before that final basketball tournament game with Fort Wayne. So we're 25-0, never lost a game. Fort Wayne, I think they'd lost 2 games. I think they were 27-2 probably. And they were the favorite. Of course, they were the favorites with a 7-foot center. Tom Bolyard was 6'4", He was a great player at Fort Wayne. The other kid, I forget his name, Danny Howe, I think it was. Anyway, these guys were 6'4", 6'5", and then, of course, Mike McCoy was 7 foot. Now, I have to tell you, Bill, I'm being very philosophical. Our players and me, the coach and the assistant, we never gave it a thought that we were going to get beat. We really, truly thought that destiny was going to be our ticket and that we would win the tournament. We thought we would beat Fort Wayne South.
Wow.
And we played the first half. We got down by, I think it was 11, 12 points, and it looked like it was going to be a rout, tell you the truth. It really did, and I'm sure the people in the stands thought, oh, my God, Springs Valley is going to just look terrible with this big team. And by the way, they were big. I could not believe how big they were. Come out the second half of the ball game, and we played terrific. I don't know, we relaxed. We began to think about how to be a good team, and we played them even. We played the second half. The records show that we had the same number of field goals, both teams. They had 1 free throw more than we did, but we couldn't overcome that 11-point, 12-point first half lead that they had. We had 2 runs, 2 momentums that scared them a little bit. I think there was 3 minutes to go. We had cut the lead to 5 points, and it just looked like we might pull this thing off. It really did. It did look like it. But here again, a 7-foot center is pretty intimidating, and that was the biggest high school center, I guess, is what I read in the history, that ever played at that time in '58. The tallest center that ever played an Indiana high school basketball tournament game. 7 foot. Good player. He wasn't a fluke, by the way. He was a very good player. Hey, he was Mr. Basketball, 1958. So that tells you something about his skill as a big man.
You know,
I still think about it, sitting right here in my little old office, thinking, you know what? And I've said this in the article. It's kind of stupid what I said, but anyway, I after a reporter asked me as I walked off the floor up there that afternoon, something to the fact that, hey, Coach, what's it feel like to lose to a ball game, or to lose that game? You'd never been beaten, et cetera, et cetera. I said, well, I have to tell you, after winning 25 straight games and never having lost a game in the history of our school, I don't think we lost the game. I don't think you can say we were losers. And I guess the reporter was trying to get a quote. I said, well, here's the way I think of it. I think the time on the clock just ran out on us. and he quoted that, and in my own mind today, I truly believe, hey, we didn't really lose the ball game. 25 wins in a row, no losses. The time on the clock just ran out on us, okay?
Coach Wells, we've done it again. We've gotten over more than an hour of keeping the nostalgia alive. Can you believe it? It goes by fast.
Really, I can't believe it. I can't believe it. It went like 5 minutes. Really. Really. I'm serious. What an honor. I mean that sincerely. I'll say it again, Bill. It's really an honor for me to come on your show again.
Oh no, I love doing this, and I sit here and I can't believe I'm sitting here in this seat in my little office, chatting with somebody who it's not done very often in Indiana high school basketball. So
I got a big trophy setting up here on the shelf. I'm just looking at it. It's a nice big trophy they gave me for being the Indiana Basketball Coach of the Year in 1958. But you know what, Bill? I'm only the custodian of this trophy. The real owners of this trophy belong to 10 young, would been teenagers back in 1958. They are the true owners of that trophy.
Coach Wells, it has been a pleasure. I hate to say this. No, I don't hate to say this. We need to probably do another one.
Well, I think your listeners might get. I think they might get tired of old Rex Wells. You know, I have to tell you, Bill, I'm going to be 88. Okay. Now, if you're going to do another one, you better catch me because I don't know that I'm going to be able. I don't think I'm going to be able to do this again. I don't think so. I'm very fortunate to be able to recall a lot of the stuff,
Well, Coach Wells, thank you so much for taking your time, and this is going to be fantastic Bill. Once again, and I appreciate your time.
Bill, thanks again. It's been an honor. Really has.